Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Adam Niederprum. My teammates are Christina Suazo and Zev Powell. We are the co-founders of Select. Select is a tool that empowers college advisors to get to the root causes of their students' struggles. So, a quick preview of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to delve into the state of college advising. And then we're going to touch on the state of the students that they serve. Christina's going to touch on the problem as we've defined it in our research the past 6 months. And Zev's going to explain to you how Select actually affects this problem. So let's begin with the state of advising. This is a situation lots of college advisors find themselves in. Hey, how are you? And getting an I'm fine response. If you ever had this conversation with a friend or a loved one and you get the I'm fine, you know that there's so much more to this story. And advisors have to deal with this reality nearly every day. But what do they do? What is their job description? So college advisors primarily are responsible for academics of their students, managing the course catalog, making sure that they are checking all the boxes on their way to a degree. They provide resources, especially if a student is struggling academically, but they have a big burden. They have a huge caseload, which means little face-to-face time with their students. The average college advisor in the United States today has just under 300 students for their caseload. So meet Walter. He's one of the advisors that we met during our research, one of 15 we did research with. He's a community college advisor at a local school in Central Texas. So Walter told us that although academics are his purview, it's non-academic issues that are really affecting his students. He said, it's either a family issue, financial issue, car problem, and they patch it up just enough to get by, and it keeps on festering. We heard this from multiple advisors that we spoke to. They struggled with getting the non-academic needs of their students out in the open and managing those. Here's a few of the advisors that we spoke to. So let's begin with Lisa. She was explaining to us that basically she expects a student to kind of verbalize, all of those non-academic needs. Dominic has a kind of a different approach. He's trying to model self-advocacy for students so they kind of vocalize those issues. And Amy's speaking to the general sense that advisors really do have a passion to create real relationships with their students. So as a quick recap of college advising today, college advisors are very passionate about building those face-to-face relationships with students. But there are serious non-academic barriers that they have to deal with. And face-to-face time with each student is extremely limited because caseloads are massive, 300 to 1 on average. Now, the other side of this relationship, what is the state of college students today? Well, let's start with the fact that only 1 in 2 college students who begin college will finish within 6 years. And for low-income students, those rates are even more severe. 1 in 17 will finish college with a degree in 6 years. Why is that? Well, there are major non-academic issues that are affecting students' ability to succeed academically. There are a few on the screen, but really it means that the majority of college students today are dealing with one of these. Many of them are managing or raising a kid full-time, working full-time, or putting themselves through school financially, which is a huge burden. Let's dive into one of these real quick. So, financial needs. Sometimes students are dealing with this completely on their own. Federal financing forms and the like. Sometimes they're first-generation students and their whole family is going through this the first time. Sometimes students don't have the emotional support of their families and they're dealing with intense financial issues completely alone, sometimes as a 17, 18, 19-year-old. Danielle is a student that we met during our research. She was a student of Walter's, the advisor we mentioned earlier. So Daniela was doing fine academically. Walter did not have to worry about her. But at the end of the semester, work was demanding more of her attention. She's a working student, paying her way through school, and they wanted her to work more hours. She failed a calculus exam at the end of the year, failed the class, and stopped out of school completely. That's all Walter knew He didn't know the root causes of that. Daniela didn't think that she could self-advocate or didn't know how to self-advocate for herself, or she thought that those non-academic issues, those work issues, weren't relevant. But they are relevant, and that's something that we've got to change. So let's recap real quick on the state of the students. They have major non-academic hurdles. There's an unfamiliarity with the system. We gave financial aid as an example. And there's a pressure for students to self-advocate. Now Christina is going to get into the details of the problem.
College students have changed, but college advising hasn't. If it hasn't changed, why do we believe that advisors are the ones to make that change? Well, we've seen that they're in a position that can fundamentally change a student's trajectory. So why advisors? From our research, we found they have 3 key strengths. If you were a student, you would want an advisor in your corner. They're a navigator. They are the only ones who know that high-level view of your degree trajectory, and they know each and every step you have to take to get there. They're an advocate. They know this administration system of the college. They can advocate on your behalf and even bend the rules. And they're strategists. They sit down with you. They can find solutions for you to balance this tension of your work life and your academic life. They know that some students, they're stuck in the system that wasn't built for them. They've seen students go through this and have pitfalls. And so they're going to set you up for success. And finally, all colleges have advisors. So we want to see a ripple effect where advisors are the ones intervening and affecting students for the better. And so let's go back to the meeting. We have, "Hey, how are you?" from the advisor. And the student defaults to, "I'm fine." This is an impasse for the advisor. So on the advisor side, they can't help a problem they don't know. And for the student side, they say, "I'm fine," for many different reasons. It could be shame, embarrassment, lack of self-advocacy or self-awareness, lack of trust with the advisor, or they don't see the relevance of bringing up their problem to an advisor. For Daniela specifically, she was focused mainly on her work problem, her work schedule. For her, she couldn't see how an advisor could help. But although that's true, an advisor can mitigate the negative effects it has on academics. Our solution is to break this impasse. Select sets the table for advisors to ask better questions than maybe, "How are you?" And then it will let the student ask and volunteer information about their personal life. Select is a tool that empowers college advisors to better assess the root cause of a student's struggle. It does this by offering a platform to students to share their non-academic obstacles. And Zev's going to tell us how it works.
Thank you. So as Christina and Adam have been talking about, there's this huge wicked problem we've been researching for the last 6 months. And when we build something, we don't want that to also be wicked and complex. We need to build something simple and practical for it to work and for it to intercept our users in their daily lives. Select is 3 simple, integrated, and inseparable steps in this product. The first thing it does is it's a questionnaire to students. It's sent out 3 days before a scheduled advisor meeting, and it's meant to uncover the problems that they're facing non-academically and let them think about those things. Second, an automatic report is sent to an advisor's email address, and the advisor is able to prioritize ahead of time what that meeting should be about. And finally, the face-to-face meeting itself. This process wouldn't exist without it, and this product wouldn't exist without that human interaction. So to give a story and an example of this, we're going to bring back Daniela and her advisor, Walter. And as we know in the real world, Daniela ended up dropping out because she failed a calculus exam. We're going to bring her life back before that and talk about how Select could have changed that. So it's the beginning of the semester, and Daniela is having her meeting in 3 days with Walter. And she gets a text from Walter saying, hey, I'd love you to fill out this questionnaire. It's only going to take you like 4 minutes, 20 questions. Super simple, right? And Daniela gets down to it. She begins to reflect in those 4 minutes about things that aren't just her struggles with calculus. She ends up feeling comfortable self-advocating in that moment because sometimes she gets a little bit nervous having these face-to-face meetings, that it feels a bit like an interview to her. Here we see her answering to the question, what were the reasons that you ended up skipping these classes? She said that she was too busy with her job. Walter gets the email in his inbox, and he's so confident and relieved seeing that he's going to be able to prioritize these things, and he knows he can have the right conversations with Daniela when she comes in 3 days. As you can see here, these red flags are that she's missing classes and that her life study balance is off. And finally, the face-to-face meeting where 1, 2, and 3, the question report and the meeting itself come together. Daniela is able to have these conversations and feel comfortable with Walter, which wasn't necessarily the case before. Walter, being a master of financial solutions in the student system, knows that Daniela can get through college by other means than working through it, and that there are plenty of scholarships out there and alternatives for her. So what do we see on a micro level in this relationship? We saw Daniela self-advocating for herself, and we saw because of that, Walter was able to advocate on her behalf. On a larger scale, we want Select to work with the diverse student body and the diverse caseload that Walter has, and we want it to work for the entire organization and college he works at. We're excited to say that Select is already at work. We've had the privilege to work with 2 local organizations. One is Breakthrough Central Texas and the other Peloton U. They're both working in the college persistence space here in Austin. And the most important thing about this relationship for us is that while we're testing this, we're getting feedback from real stories and real people. And we're not making assumptions as designers in a studio about what the next version of Select should look like. So as you can see, we've worked with 2 organizations, 7 advisors, 32 students total, and 700 plus individual responses to the questions on the questionnaire. What was once one of our biggest concerns ended up being the biggest validation for us. And that's that 32 out of 34 students ended up responding to the questionnaire we sent out, that the advisors sent out. And it was completely voluntary. We were really concerned, as were advisors, that students wouldn't engage in something like this. They're already busy enough. Going to the advisors just to check in the box, right? But 32 out of 34 students end up responding. An advisor we worked with, Andrea, also the chief strategy officer at Breakthrough, told us this. If anything, students think, oh, phew, an adult who can help me with this. So reflecting on what we've heard today, advising isn't addressing the needs of a new student population, that advisors lack the tool to be successful and effective in face-to-face meetings with their students, and that Select is the tool to help assess the root causes of these student struggles. And if we want you to take away one thing from today, it's that we're building a small piece of technology, but it's not meant to replace advisors and that human-to-human fundamental interaction that changes the student trajectory in college persistence. And as students and peers of design and our learnings from this year, we want to enrich human interactions with the tools that we build and not replace them. And so we'll let Walter take us out with a few words he told us. He said that advisors assume that a student's current place dictates their story. It's not the whole story. They are people with real lives, and their experiences matter. You have to tap into each of their stories. So thank you.